Ever get that feeling like there's, more to life than meets the eye? Like there's a deeper reality waiting to be discovered?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, today we're diving into 2 texts that act as maps to that hidden world.
Ooh, exciting.
The 7 Valleys and the 4 Valleys.
Okay.
These writings are...
Interesting titles.
They are. They're responses from Bahá'u'lláh, a prominent spiritual figure, to a Sufi mystic who was seeking guidance.
Yeah.
And they're considered classics, not for like straightforward advice, but for their poetic language. And really deep metaphors that illuminate the spiritual journey.
So not your typical self-help book.
No, not at all. More like mystical poetry, using the imagery of valleys to represent like the stages of spiritual growth.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So what's the main difference between these 2 texts?
Well, what's fascinating is that each text uses a different framework.
Okay.
7 Valleys versus 4.
Right.
It immediately makes you wonder, like, are there multiple paths to the same destination?
Yeah.
Or are they just emphasizing, different aspects of the journey?
Ooh, I like that.
And the source material doesn't explicitly compare them.
Oh, okay.
So we kind of get to play detective today.
I like that.
Instead of listing all the valleys up front, which might just be like information overload.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe we could start with like one from each text that really captures the imagination.
Ooh, yeah, let's do it. Let's pick some juicy ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
So from the 7 Valleys, the one that always grabs me is the Valley of True Poverty and Absolute Nothingness.
Okay, that's a good one. The name alone.
Right.
A paradox.
Yeah. It challenges our usual ideas about wealth and fulfillment.
For sure. It's like the less you have, the more you are.
Right. It's like saying the less you cling to, the richer you become. What is Bahá'u'lláh getting at here?
He's talking about detachment, but like on a really radical level.
Okay.
It's not just about decluttering your house, though there's wisdom in that too, of course.
Right.
It's about recognizing that even our sense of self, like our ego, can be something we cling to.
Yeah.
And that can limit our spiritual growth. He's saying that true freedom comes from letting go of attachments, even the attachment to who we think we are.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that quote, the less you own, the less owns you.
Yes.
This valley is taking it even further, almost like saying the less you are, the less they can own you.
Oh, that's good. I like that. That's a good one.
So it's like building a foundation on solid ground instead of like shifting sand.
Right. And, detachment isn't about becoming like emotionless or isolating ourselves.
Right.
It's about recognizing that true happiness and security, those things come from within.
Yeah.
Not from external things or these fixed ideas of ourselves. It's about cultivating an inner strength that can weather, the storms of life.
Okay. What about the 4 valleys? Which valley speaks to you there?
Ooh, for me, it's the Valley of the Heart. This one, I feel like it's universally relatable. It emphasizes the importance of love and compassion and empathy.
Okay.
In our development, not just as emotions, but like the driving forces in our actions.
Okay, I'm intrigued by that because, sometimes the spiritual path is portrayed as all about like transcending emotions, right? Rising above them.
Right.
But here, the heart, the seat of emotion, is like a crucial stage.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that true spiritual understanding isn't just intellectual. Right?
Right.
Bahá'u'lláh describes it as the light that guideth in this valley, which suggests that love illuminates the path. It allows us to perceive the world and ourselves in a new way.
So it's not enough to just know about spirituality. You have to actually feel it,
Yeah.
Let it transform you from the inside out.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between, reading a recipe and actually tasting the delicious meal.
That's a perfect analogy. It's about experiencing the teachings, not just intellectually grasping them. And that experience often starts in the heart. Now, to give you a sense of the full journey outlined in each text, let's just quickly list the names of the other valleys.
Okay.
Just to pique your curiosity.
Okay.
In the 7 valleys, we have the valleys of search, love, knowledge, unity, contentment, and true wealth.
Okay, so there's a progression there.
Yeah.
From seeking to loving to ultimately finding true wealth, which, based on what we've discussed, probably isn't about money.
Exactly.
And what about the 4 valleys? What are the other 3?
Besides the Valley of the Heart, we have the valleys of search, detachment, and unity.
Interesting. Both texts have valleys of search and unity.
Right.
That suggests those concepts are like fundamental.
Totally, yeah.
Regardless of which metaphorical framework you're using.
Right.
But they each also have these unique valleys highlighting specific aspects of the journey.
Exactly, like they're offering complementary perspectives on the same core goal of spiritual growth.
Yeah.
And speaking of complementary perspectives, let's dive into some of the overarching themes that are kind of woven throughout both texts, regardless of the valley structure.
Sounds good. What are some of those universal threads that might resonate even if someone isn't on a specifically religious path?
One that stands out is this exploration of the self and the soul.
Okay.
Both texts encourage us to look beyond our physical existence, right? And discover our true spiritual essence. What's interesting is how Bahá'u'lláh describes the soul. He calls it a sign of God and a heavenly gem, emphasizing its inherent nobility and potential.
So it's not just about figuring out who you are in like a worldly sense, like your career, your personality.
Right, exactly.
But about uncovering this deeper spiritual self that has like incredible potential just waiting to be unlocked.
Yeah, it's like we're all walking around with this like treasure chest inside of us.
Yeah.
And we don't even know it.
And it ties back to the idea of the valleys themselves, right?
Totally.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
An active process of uncovering that gem,
Yeah.
polishing it through the challenges and the triumphs we encounter along the way.
Beautiful.
Wow, that's a powerful image. And it makes you think, if each of us has this heavenly gem within us, what kind of potential are we like, leaving untapped?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's one that these texts really encourage us to explore. But there's another fascinating theme that we should touch on, one that might surprise some people.
I'm all ears.
It's the balanced emphasis on both love and intellect in the spiritual journey.
Okay.
Often they're seen as separate domains, even opposing forces sometimes.
Yeah.
But Bahá'u'lláh presents a more nuanced view. He's suggesting that they actually need to work in harmony.
Wait, really? I've always thought of spirituality as being mostly about, like, emotions and faith. How does intellect fit into the picture?
Well, in both the 7 valleys and the 4 valleys, Baha'u'lláh urges us to use our minds to explore spiritual concepts, to question, to reason, to analyze.
So it's not about blindly accepting things.
Right.
But about engaging our critical thinking skills.
Exactly. But he doesn't stop there.
Okay.
He also emphasizes the role of the heart. He reminds us that love is, and I'm quoting here, the power that adorneth the heart and guides us through the valleys.
So it's about bringing both our heads and our hearts to the table.
Yeah.
Using logic and reason to understand the teachings.
Yes.
But also letting those teachings touch us emotionally and inspire us to action.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach to spiritual growth.
Yeah.
Engaging our whole being, not just one aspect.
That's fascinating. This concept of balancing love and intellect, it might be the most mind-blowing thing I've learned today.
I know, it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
It really challenges those common assumptions about spirituality. Now, before we journey further into these fascinating valleys and, unpack their unique lessons, let's take a moment to let all of this sink in. When we return, we'll explore how these ideas can apply to, anyone, regardless of their spiritual background, and how they can help us navigate the ups and downs of everyday life.
Stay with us. This is a deep dive you won't want to miss. Welcome back, explorers. We're navigating those rich landscapes of the 7 valleys and the 4 valleys, those mystical texts that use valleys, right, as metaphors for the stages of spiritual growth.
Yeah, and we've just scratched the surface. We talked about how these texts, challenge our usual ideas of wealth and fulfillment, and that emphasis on, using both your head and your heart in your understanding. And of course, that suggestion that there's a, heavenly gem of potential inside each of us.
It's been mind-blowing. And now I'm itching to explore more of these valleys and the specific lessons they offer, Where should we head next on this metaphorical map?
Let's revisit the 7 valleys, and we can delve into that very first valley, the Valley of Search.
Okay.
It represents the initial stage of the spiritual journey, that spark of longing for something more.
That feeling of, there's got to be more to life than this. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, totally.
You're waking up to a whole new dimension of existence.
Exactly. And this valley acknowledges that yearning. Baha'u'lláh describes it as a place of restlessness, a thirst for knowledge, and a desire to connect with something, greater than ourselves.
So it's not about having all the answers right away, but just about, embracing the questions, right?
Yeah.
And setting out on that journey of exploration.
Precisely. The Valley of Search is all about cultivating curiosity and a willingness to challenge our assumptions. It encourages us to step outside of our comfort zones and be open to new perspectives. You know, it's like the saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yeah.
This valley is that first step.
That's such a powerful message, especially in today's world where we're just bombarded with information, right? Quick fixes.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds us that true understanding requires effort, a willingness to actively seek. But speaking of seeking, I'm curious how the Four Valleys tackles this initial stage of the journey. Do they also have a valley of search?
They do.
Okay.
And, you know, comparing how each text portrays this stage is really illuminating. While both emphasize the importance of seeking and questioning, the Four Valleys places a unique focus on the role of the intellect in this process.
Okay, so it's less about like that initial yearning we were talking about, and more about a deliberate intellectual pursuit of knowledge.
Yes. There's a greater emphasis on study, reflection, and critical thinking in this Valley of Search.
Okay.
Baha'u'lláh encourages us to actively engage our minds, right?
Yeah.
In our spiritual exploration. He urges us to, analyze, ponder, and delve deeper into these spiritual teachings.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like saying faith and reason aren't at odds, but can actually work together to deepen our understanding.
Totally.
It's about using both our heart and our head on this path.
Exactly. And both texts acknowledge the importance of both,
Yeah.
But the Four Valleys really highlights the intellect as a vital tool for spiritual growth.
I'm loving how these texts offer like different angles on the same core concepts.
Yeah.
It's like two sides of the same coin.
Virtually, yeah.
It makes you realize like how multifaceted the spiritual journey really is.
For sure. And that's what makes, studying them side by side so enriching.
Yeah.
They give us a broader, more nuanced perspective.
Okay.
Speaking of different angles, let's shift gears a bit and dive into a valley that emphasizes inner transformation. The Valley of Detachment from the Four Valleys.
Ooh, detachment.
I know.
It's a word that can sound a bit intimidating,
Yeah.
What does it actually entail in this context?
Yeah, it's about recognizing that true happiness and fulfillment, they don't come from clinging to material possessions or worldly desires. It's about freeing ourselves from that constant need for more, that insatiable hunger that never seems to be satisfied.
It reminds me of the minimalist movement.
Yeah.
People downsizing their belongings, right?
Yeah.
To live more simply and intentionally.
Yeah.
But this takes it even further, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about stuff. It's about detaching from those desires themselves.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. And you're right. It goes deeper than just physical possessions. It's about shifting our focus from the external to the internal, from having to being. Baha'u'lláh encourages us to, find contentment in our connection to something greater than ourselves, not in the accumulation of things.
So it's about cultivating that inner strength and sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on external validation or possessions.
Precisely. And it's a process, It's not about becoming emotionless or denying ourselves joy. It's about finding true and lasting happiness, in our spiritual connection, in expressing our virtues and our values.
Now I'm wondering, does the Seven Valleys offer a similar perspective on this idea of detachment?
It does, and it's framed in a way that's both profound and paradoxical. It's called the Valley of True Poverty and Absolute Nothingness.
Wow. That name is intense. It sounds like it takes this concept of detachment to a whole new level.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Here, Baha'u'lláh challenges us to not only detach from material things, but also from our very sense of self, our ego. It's about shedding those layers of identity, right, that we cling to, recognizing that even our ego can be a barrier to spiritual growth.
So it's the ultimate surrender.
Yeah.
A complete letting go of everything we think we know about ourselves. It's almost like saying the less you define yourself, the more expansive you become.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way to put it. And it highlights the paradoxical nature of spiritual growth, where true fulfillment often comes from embracing emptiness, from relinquishing our limited sense of self to merge with something greater.
It's like saying the vessel needs to be empty to be filled with something new. This valley is really pushing us to think differently about what it means to be rich or fulfilled.
Exactly. And it's a concept that can take a lifetime to fully understand and embody.
Yeah.
But even grappling with these ideas can be incredibly transformative.
I can see how these valleys can be challenging, but also like deeply liberating.
Yeah.
It's like we're shedding these layers of conditioning, right?
Yeah.
And uncovering a more authentic way of being.
That's a beautiful way to describe it. And, as we delve deeper into these texts, we'll see how each valley builds upon the previous one, preparing us for the next stage of growth and transformation.
This is absolutely fascinating. I'm eager to see where this journey takes us next. But before we continue our exploration, let's take a moment to let all this new information sink in. When we return, we'll journey into the valleys of unity and uncover even more treasures hidden within these mystical texts.
Stay tuned, listeners. The most fascinating parts of our journey are yet to come.
Welcome back, fellow explorers. We're nearing the summit of our deep dive into the 7 valleys and the 4 valleys, these, mystical maps to spiritual enlightenment.
We've traversed valleys of yearning. We've explored the depths of detachment. We've discovered that true fulfillment might just lie in letting go of everything we cling to, even our sense of self.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
And I'm sensing we're about to reach, a breathtaking vista as we approach the final stages of these metaphorical landscapes. Where are we headed next?
Let's ascend to the peak of unity, a concept that resonates in both texts. In the 7 valleys, it's aptly named the Valley of Unity. And in the 4 valleys, we find the Valley of Unity.
Ah, same concept, different valleys. It seems like a pivotal point on the spiritual path.
Yeah.
Regardless of the specific framework.
Yeah.
What does it mean to reach this state of unity?
Imagine transcending the boundaries of your individual self and experiencing a profound interconnectedness with all of creation. Mm-hmm. It's about recognizing that divine spark, not just within yourself, but in every being, every element of existence.
It's like suddenly realizing you're not a solitary wave, but part of this vast interconnected ocean.
Yeah.
Or that you're not a single star, but part of a dazzling interconnected galaxy. That's a powerful shift in perspective.
Absolutely. In this valley, the illusion of separation kind of dissolves.
Yeah.
We begin to perceive that underlying unity that binds us all, a harmony that transcends differences and limitations.
But how do we actually get there? Is this sense of unity something that just happens, or does it require conscious effort?
Both texts highlight the need for intentional cultivation. In the 7 valleys, Bahá'u'lláh emphasizes the importance of specific virtues, like love, compassion, humility.
It makes sense that love and compassion would be key. Yeah. If we want to experience unity with others, we need to see them through the lens of empathy and understanding.
Yeah.
And humility allows us to step outside of our ego, to recognize that, we're not the center of the universe.
Precisely. These qualities aren't just passive feelings. They're active forces that shape our perceptions and guide our interactions.
Yeah.
They create the fertile ground where unity can blossom.
And what about the 4 valleys? How does it approach the path to unity?
In the 4 valleys, the emphasis leans more towards knowledge and understanding. Bahá'u'lláh suggests that true unity arises from a deep comprehension of spiritual principles and the interconnectedness of all things.
So we need both the heart and the mind working in tandem. Love and compassion open us up to the possibility of unity, while knowledge and understanding provide the framework for truly grasping it.
Exactly. It's a beautiful synergy. Now, remember those final valleys we mentioned earlier?
Yes.
The ones representing the ultimate goal of the spiritual journey, the valley of true wealth in the 7 valleys and the valley of the divine in the 4 valleys.
They sound like the culmination of everything we've been discussing, what awaits us in these final destinations.
Imagine a complete merging of your individual consciousness with the ultimate reality. It's a transcendence of our limited earthly existence, an awakening to our true spiritual nature. In these valleys, we experience a profound sense of peace, joy, and liberation, free from the constraints of the material world.
It sounds like pure bliss. Mm-hmm. Is such a state even attainable in this lifetime, or is it more of a far-off ideal?
Well, while full union may be a lifelong aspiration, both texts suggest that glimpses of this state are possible here and now. Through dedicated spiritual practice, by cultivating the qualities we've discussed, we can experience moments of profound connection and unity with the with the divine. It's like catching a glimpse of the sun through the clouds, a fleeting but transformative experience.
It's a reminder that the journey itself is the destination.
Yeah.
That every step we take towards love, compassion, understanding, and detachment, it brings us closer to that ultimate unity.
Beautifully put. And that's the heart of what the 7 Valleys and the 4 Valleys offer, a guide to a lifelong process of growth, transformation, and ever-deepening connection with the divine.
Wow, what an incredible journey we've been on. From the initial spark of seeking to the ultimate heights of unity, we've traversed these mystical landscapes and uncovered profound insights along the way.
It's been a privilege to share this exploration with you, and I hope our listeners feel empowered to delve deeper into these texts themselves.
Me too. Remember, even if you're not on a specifically spiritual path, these valleys offer valuable lessons for navigating the challenges of life, for fostering meaningful relationships, and for discovering the true treasures that lie within.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep striving towards the light.
Until next time, happy adventuring.